I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Rich Bradfield. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to making dinner a little bit later. It's about 5 in the evening here in Colorado, and I'll make dinner with my wife and my teenage daughter who's at home.
That's great. That sounds like a really nice family setting. Yeah, love it. Ooh, Colorado. Great. Tell me, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
I'm a podcaster, and I podcast with a partner who noted your site and said, "Hey, let's talk to Angel." And I said, okay, that sounds interesting. Yeah, let's do that. We haven't been guests on other people's podcasts, so why not give it a shot?
Yeah, I'm glad to be your first, Rich.
Well, me too, I think, so far.
So tell us about your podcast, please.
Our podcast is called The Boulderist, and we talk about a variety of pretty strange subjects, but the general theme is that there are subjects that should be of interest to people who are either fans or despisers of Boulder, Colorado. And Boulder has a pretty unique culture. It's a very liberal community. It's also a very worldly community. So we talk about subjects that range from the use of native medicines like ayahuasca for therapy. We talk about Colorado politics. We talk about things related to health. So those are kind of typical subjects that we'd talk about.
All right. You know, I looked at the name of the podcast and I did get the opportunity to listen. I was like, what is Boulderist, right? So I was driving at the time. I was just wondering, what is the Boulderist? I didn't know it was a place. So that's pretty interesting. Who did you learn the skill of understanding that humanity expands more than what we see before our eyes?
Wow. No, that's a question.
It is,
I think it.
I'm wondering, where did that question come from, too?
I think for me personally, it came from a variety of experiences I had. I moved around quite a bit as a child and as a younger adult, and I've lived in pretty diverse places like California, Colorado, traveled around the world, spent a long time living in the state of Texas. And I think when you see enough things, if you're a person whose eyes are open, then your perception of the world expands, and often to the point that you realize that you don't have any kind of a clue about what is really going on. And it's probably a good idea just to fasten your seatbelt and go along for the ride.
So amazingly true. I mean, could you imagine that I'm speaking to you on a technology where you're quite over there and I'm hearing your voice and you're hearing my voice? I mean, who could figure it out, right?
Yeah, well, we all stand on the shoulders of other people, and we can go back to, the telegraph, smoke signals, drums, other ways that people communicate, and people want to communicate better and faster. And I'm currently reading a wide variety of science fiction, and one of the themes in science fiction is either communication and what the lag is in communication when distance increases. And I think as people, we live in a world of immediacy, and this miracle of communication in many ways has not really been particularly good for us, because we tend to want things now and expect to have access to things now, where in the past, if you wanted to learn about a subject, you may have had to wait until you could take a trip to the local library and then do your research there, which oftentimes would not include all the resources you'd possibly want.
Yeah, there is a beauty in the process that gets left out. again, who would have figured, right? That there was value in walking to the library. Who would have figured that not having it at your fingertips would mean that you wouldn't use it? Who would have figured that the power is not so much in the thing being available, but the ability to apply the discipline to continuously interact with it? Who would have thought, right?
Who would have thought?
Well, tell me what. Sure, go ahead. This is an amazing conversation. I need to control myself.
No. Your turn to ask a question. Go.
All right. What is one thing you've done consistently? Another thing, right? Consistently over the last 3 years.
Over the last 3 years, I'm spending an awful lot of time thinking about my children, and that's possibly not necessarily a good thing for me. The reason why is I have teenage children. I've got a son who just went off to college. I've got a daughter who's still at home finishing up her secondary education. And the reason I think it's a negative is ultimately people have to make their own mistakes. And in focusing upon someone's development too much, it's possible just to think about how to control their path, improve their path, take away some of the pain and suffering they're going to experience in life. And, that's something I've been doing over the last 3 years. That's a negative. One of the positives is I lift a lot of weights, and that's a healthy thing, and I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I'm a community activist, and I work in my community to help projects be realized and good things to happen.
How does that make you feel?
How does that make me feel? It makes me feel that I live in a better place, and that having a diverse opinion from other people can be of value to a group. If we all think alike, what's the value in that? There is nothing interesting. Yeah. I mean, why would you do thousands of conversations with people if they were all identical?
Yeah. Whoa. Wow. I just got really, really scared there. Ooh, that would have been frightening. Ooh.
You would have had two, and then you realized, oh, I'm done.
Yeah, most definitely. Again, yeah, there's so much to touch on with what you're expressing. So much to touch on. Suggest to someone that's listening why they understand the richness and uniqueness.
The richness and uniqueness. And we all have our own journeys, and I think we should embrace those. Many times, there's one of two things. The narcissist believes that her or his journey is the best journey. The non-narcissist believes that their journey is somehow lacking and may have been improved compared to other journeys. And that's kind of simplistic, but I think we need to just value what we're doing.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, amazing audience, you're hearing it live here from Rich Bradfield. Again, podcast host. What else do you do? Do you podcast only?
I'm retired, and I'm an adventurer at heart. I've been an adventurer for many, many years, and I've done some good things, some crazy things, some audacious things. I've traveled around the world on a bicycle.
Sweet.
I've landed a jet on an aircraft carrier.
Wow.
I've been a bike racer. My current passion is motorcycle touring, adventure touring. So here in Colorado, we have many, many old mining roads that go through the mountains all over the place. So I spend a lot of time in the summers camping and traveling around the dirt roads and trails of Colorado on a big motorcycle. I also take trips around the United States and in North America.
Sweet.
I think Trinidad would be kind of a hard place to get to on a motorcycle.
Yeah, but once you get here, there's some beautiful trails. What type of bike are you riding?
KTM 1190.
All right. Look at you. Okay.
Hey, their company color is orange, and
orange.
Orange is their color, and I went to the University of Texas, which is also an orange color.
Love it.
So maybe orange is my thing in the universe. Who knows?
Who knows? Connecting dots. Well, again, amazing audience. Rich Bradfield, podcast host of the Boulder podcast. Well, Rich, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
Ooh.
Rich, what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory is actually taking a gondola ride across Disneyland in the early 1960s.
Wow, how old were you at that time?
I think it was like 3 or 4 years old.
How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
I think I'm somebody that likes to look around and point at things.
Yeah, that's intriguing. Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
I think you like to carry yourself places with your own energy.
I think there's some truth to that.
There we go. You've done it a few times, haven't you?
I have.
Oh, that's amazing that you were doing that as a child. Pretty impressive.
Well, I think my parents had something to do with putting me on that gondola, but
which we can definitely expand into, right? The legacy, even you being the community builder now, creating that platform for others as well, right?
Indeed.
If we fast forwarded to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song when I was 12 was American Pie by Don McLean.
Wild Side.
Well, it was the heart of the era of classic rock. And I think one of those ironies about classic rock was I really enjoyed it at the time, but I didn't expect it to last my entire life.
Love it.
And even as you travel around, you still hear, classic American and British rock all over the place.
All over the world.
Yeah. And, I would ask you, living in Trinidad, did you think that Bob Marley was going to be the soundtrack to your life? I mean, I'm sure you hear Bob Marley way more often than you ever thought you would, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you're correct. Asking the question and the soundtrack to my life, yeah, it's really amazing. Like, till this day, one of the songs that I would usually go back to is from Bob Marley. Yeah, and I didn't think, it just felt as though it was part of me, though, like from thinking back, right?
Which one?
I love, so it's a real old song by Bob Marley, where it's really, really, really old, but it's Soul Rebel is the name of the song.
I don't know Soul Rebel. I'll have to listen to it later.
Yeah, I'll definitely send the link for you if you want. Like, it's old school, like yeah. I'm a rebel, soul rebel. I'm a capturer, soul adventurer. Of course, Bob Marley songs different when he sings it.
Yeah, he had a band too.
Yeah, and music as well. Yeah. Well, Rich, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Rich, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Rich, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I share my skills with my podcasting partner, Jack Heimsoth, and he is a good friend of mine, and he's also someone that when it's good, I share wisdom, and when it's not good, I don't.
Are you married? You spoke of your wife and your daughter and your son. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I am married.
Yeah. Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you believe in God?
I do, but I think that our concept of God is so minute compared to what God could actually be.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
Seldom.
All right. What about 3 hours a week?
Yeah, more than that.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Generally, it's less than 8, but if I happen to be reading or listening to an audio book, I kind of wonder if that takes me over the 8-hour limit, because sometimes I'll use a Kindle or another device to read literature on.
All right. Rich, if you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Rich Bradfield, what would you say that is?
Strive every day to be your best possible self.
Love it. Rich, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Angel, thanks for what you're doing. This is interesting. I didn't realize what all you could get in 12 minutes.
Well, we did go about a little more than 12. I mean, I was having fun here, amazing audience, but yes, I appreciate you saying that, Rich. Rich Bradfield, thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.